Okay, I'll call to order the June 22nd, 2026 City Council work meeting. Item 2, the agenda. Number 3, I guess we'll go to city notary.
Okay, that's me. So recently, I was attending a clerk's training, and we had a speaker from the Secretary of State's office. And the Secretary of State's office is where notary publics get their commissions issued. We have 4 notary publics at City Hall. As part of our job descriptions, 4 of us have a notary commission. During this training that I attended, a lot of the other clerks were discussing how everyone has a commission, but there is very, very little available in the way of training for notary commissions. There's no training required before you get your commission. And right now at City Hall, we offer notary services to the public. So they can bring in their documents for notarization, and we have it on our fee schedule that we charge $1 for that service. Something that we are discovering is some of the documents that are being brought in for staff to notarize should not necessarily be notarized by staff. There are different notarial acts that we can finalize. We can do acknowledgements, so for like contracts and easements and permit applications. We can do what they call jurats, which is affidavits, complaint statements. We'd get those on claims or reimbursement forms. Oaths or affirmations without a document, so oaths of office or commission appointments. We can do verification of an oath or an affirmation. So again, that's something that comes up with permit applications or license applications, candidate filings during elections. And the last thing that we can do is copy certification. So certifying that it is a exact copy of what's a document that we have on file. But a lot of the documents that get brought in by the public are wills, powers of attorney documents, real estate documents such as deeds of trust, grant or warranty deeds, affidavits of title. We should not be notarizing those because we have no authority to notarize those documents or have no way of verifying that those documents that we are looking at is true and correct. So kind of what we're left with is we either create a notary policy specifically for those members of staff that are required to have their notary commissions that addresses what types of documents and what type of acts we will be permitted and different procedures involved with that, or we remove it from the fee schedule and we don't offer it as a public service, but the notaries that we have on staff can still notarize the city documents, so the ones that we require in order to do business. So the land use documents that would come in to the community development department, the documents that we require for, say, liquor licenses or tobacco licenses. We would still do the affidavits of candidacy for elections, that sort of stuff. Anything that's required by the city, but just remove that as something that the public can just bring something in. That's kind of the question that we're left with right now, and so we wanted to bring that to council and see where you guys stood on that. If we created a policy to keep it on the fee schedule, and create a line procedure for how staff should operate with the various notarial acts that we are allowed to complete. That would be something that I'd pull together, but we would want to get the city attorney involved because there is a liability possibility there. And so before I brought that to the city attorney and incurred any of those charges, I wanted to bring that to you guys first and see which way you wanted to go with it. Because if we pull it off the fee schedule and don't offer it as a public service anymore, there's no need to write a policy for it.
Why do documents that you guys have on hand need to be notarized? Because my thinking is you're the only ones who see these documents. Why do they have to be notarized anyways?
Some of the documents, they're generated by their state forms, but we have to have them on file because we're the issuing authority. So we don't create the forms. We don't, we are pulling them in from external organizations.
So why do they have to be notarized? If you you pulled in the documents from external sources, you create them, why do they need to be notarized?
Depending on it depends on the type of document. Like with licenses or like in a license application, typically, I believe in a liquor license application, we have, I think, 2 different documents that have to be notarized. One of them is just an acknowledgement that the person signing on behalf of this business is who they say they are. So it is just a verification. And then I believe the other one that we have to notarize might be an indemnification agreement. And they're agreeing to indemnify the city for any charges that may arise from them operating under their license that we issued to them.
Okay, so if you get out of the notary business for these just the city ones I'm talking about right now, they would have to go to a bank or a lawyer
Correct.
or someplace else
Yep.
for those 2.
Yep.
So that kind of doesn't make sense that they would have to go, if it's a city thing, that they would
Right.
have to go outside of the city to get it notarized.
Right, which is why I'm not recommending that we get rid of it entirely and just quit doing it altogether.
Right. I can see why real estate documents, because there's so much housing fraud going on right now, because you guys don't have the ability to do these title searches and stuff like that, and people are losing their homes to fraud right now. So I can see that.
There's
I
a
can
lot of
see-
documents, that come in that you actually have to have a real estate license in order to notarize that. Or you have to recognize these legal documents, and unless you are an attorney or a paralegal of some sort, you're not going to recognize whether or not that document is complete.
Right. My recommendation is just put out a list of the stuff that you guys are authorized to notarize, and so the public knows. Make it widespread, on the front page of the website, and then also we do not do wills and real estate and legal transactions between, divorce, marriage, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That would be my recommendation.
And if we do that, that's something where we would have to have the policy in place.
Right.
So,
Create a policy, but also make sure the public is
Right.
notified, not to have to page through that big book of stuff to see what will they notarize,
Was there issues that spurred this conversation at where you went?
The training that I went to, it was a workshop for the Minnesota Clerks and Finance Officers Association. They just bring in different training options whenever they can get them. And of all of the other clerks that were there, the ones that I spoke with, none of us had official training before. There were other members there that have been notaries for over 20 years and did not have this information. So it was very well attended, and there was a lot of participation in this. But then some of the information that I brought back and talking with the other staff that have their notary commissions, there was a lot of questions raised. So, yeah, figured we'd want to bring it up to you guys.
So
So.
you weren't necessarily notified of any
No.
issues that have
No.
happened? It was more like this is how it should be?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And just to kind of give you a little bit more information, on average, so like I said before, we charge $1 per document. We've typically been charging $1 per document. We are supposed to charge $1 per signature. So if a document has multiple signatures, we are supposed to charge more than $1 for that. But on average, we make less than $30 a year on this for the last 10 years. This year, we've made a grand total of $4 on notary fees.
I would say then keep it in-house, you know, and don't even offer the other part. I don't know, do we have to put it on the website, just say that we're not really a notary?
It would be a resolution to take it off of the fee schedule, so it would require coming back to the next meeting and a resolution to amend the fee schedule, and so then we would have that published afterwards.
Especially if you're not notarizing much.
Right.
You know, it doesn't pay to even offer the service, in my opinion.
You know, one thing I do like is that when staff goes to training, that they come back and tell us stuff that they've learned and what some things that are being changed.
Oh, we
So
can
this is
load you
kind
up.
of exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, from a liability standpoint, I would say if we do a policy just on the essentials that we need for the lottery and that, so we have our list intact, I think that'd be sufficient.
Yeah, shouldn't be a difficult policy to create, I wouldn't think.
I have a skeleton one kind of pulled together already, but before I went any further with it, I wanted to double check. So is that something where we would just do, I just want
City
clarification,
related.
just city related, or,
Yeah.
I'd
Okay.
say yes.
like I said, I just wanted to get some clarification on that
Yep,
before
just the necessities that so we ain't getting ourselves in liable issues.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
This one must be Matt for.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, I was asked to put this on the work session here for discussion. Wanted to also just kind of give an update on where they're currently at right now. First of all, by way of a CUP, they are required in order to retain their CUP to have a active license with the state. So as you know, their license was suspended, and they were going through I don't want to say a trial, but basically proving right or wrong what happened in the facility. Since then, they've been given a temporary license now for 6 individuals that they can serve in that massive facility. Not sure how that's going to work, but at any rate, if they ultimately lose a license, that would negate their CUP at that point. The issue of trying to find it here. Age limitation is 10 to 19 years of age. There was possibly something printed out there that allows up to 21 years of age. That would be a violation of the CUP. So we're going to follow up on that to ensure that the 10 to 19 is being, that all the requirements of the CUP are being followed. We did receive, and I sent out to the council, a default notification. And essentially what that is the bank is required to send a notification to the city that they are in default, not meaning that they didn't pay their bills, but that a condition of that loan agreement is that they have a license with the state as a funding mechanism for their operations. And so when that funding mechanism was put on hold, that triggered a default at that point. I received a letter from them. I believe I included it in the packet, that they have enough money to even pay off the facility if they so wish, that they're not going to be defaulting on the payments portion of it, but that they're working with the bank to either remove that component or work out a way that they're no longer in default. I'm not sure that we have any sort of repercussion as far as defaults go of payments as it relates to their CUP portion of it. But
Can I
again,
interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
So they're in default on payment. Is there a late fee or anything like that? Or you just said there's nothing, and maybe if there is nothing, we need to establish something.
this is the letter that I included from Old National Bank. They identify if there's late fees and that are in here. Again, this is not a missed payment default. It's a, as part of the loan agreement, it's that their funding source is in jeopardy. So if they can prove to the bank that, look, we've got an account over here with the dollars in there to pay this off tomorrow if we want, then perhaps the bank will consider that a security, enough collateral security for the loan, and they can kind of dismiss that that default notice. But at any rate, it's ongoing in terms of trying to work through their scenario over there. From what I understand, they're a very large entity. They have quite a few operations around the state and country, and I don't foresee them struggling financially necessarily on this. It was I think we were talking about it earlier before the meeting, and I think when they introduced boys and girls, that created some conflict there that I think the state then reacted to, and that was kind of the impetus for this shutting it down. So I don't know if the 6 individuals now that they're gonna, 6 children that they're gonna allow in there are only females again, or only males, or a combination thereof, but I'm assuming they're taking steps to ensure that they fix that that issue that was raised by the state. So as far as we know, they're still in operation and still moving along. I know their hope is to grow from 6 to more, obviously, and get back to the full complement that they're working with in there. But that's only going to happen at the rate in which the state allows it to happen. So.
Do you know what their maximum is, number of kids?
Shoot,
We got 40 beds. I think it was 40.
40?
Yeah, I think that in the high, maybe there was 25 in there or something like that, but we don't necessarily get updated on the totals either. So, but anyways, wanted to give just that update on where that scenario is at, and
Can you let us know once you get the information?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep council updated on this, and again, if they lose their license to operate out of that facility, then that triggers a CUP now being revoked. Now, we didn't revoke the CUP because it was temporarily suspended as they're going through their kind of dispute resolution or whatever with the state, but they've.
You don't know what the findings of the state were that made them
There were
get
safety
suspended?
concerns. There were
Safety?
Safety concerns, yep. And again, I think it may have had to do largely with the combination of boys and girls. That created some new dynamics, as you can imagine, that generated some calls, you might say. And,
Well, the safety's always been an issue for us since day one.
yeah.
And in meetings, they told us what the age group was gonna be. So I'm curious to find out, you know, if in fact that they've gone above what we've told them. They've also told us they were putting together a what do you wanna call it? Something to de-escalate the situations and get different security training in there, and I'm curious to see if they've actually followed through on that. I mean, it might be something that the city might request, to take a look at the logs for, you know, from them, to see what kind of calls were made, what kind of response was made, and what they did to remedy that.
Yeah,
I
the
mean-
sheriff has all those calls.
But you know what I mean, if
Yeah.
they're going against what they say they're gonna do and put the steps in place to prevent this from happening again, the city might have to take a hard look at that.
So the last time that we had a conversation with them, they kind of stated that, well, they only have certain things they can do, you know, that they're allowed to do.
Right.
They can't lock the facility, they can't have hands-on, they can't do various different measures that might control some of this behavior. And as a result, they were somewhat blaming their the licensure, the state, in limiting their, you know, what they're capable of doing. I don't know if that's true or not, or not, but at any rate, it would make sense that, you know, we had talked about their license being expanded to a locked facility, and, you know, that might have helped contain the, you know, the problems, some of them. But I don't think the state's allowed that, so it's,
That's what they said, they're gonna be bringing in different training,
yeah.
you know, and putting in a protocol to handle situations like that, where they could actually do more restraining and have tougher, you know, laws, so to speak. So I'm curious to see if they followed through on that, because we haven't had a meeting since then.
Right.
We're due for one.
Yeah, because even on the sheriff's report tonight, there's 3 calls that they list there, that are there, and all 3 of them are domestic assaults on staff.
From the 6? Yeah. You know,
So,
if I can speak freely, Mr. Mayor, I think this is a needed service for troubled kids. I don't know that it's a entity that fits well in a community our size. You know, if you have deeper pockets and a larger, you know, budget, you might be able to weather some of this a little bit more than the direct relationship that we have with the sheriff's department, that based on their calls, we see an increase in budget. You know, and it can be substantial. So, and again, we had this frank conversation with them that had they disclosed the challenges that we would ultimately end up seeing, it probably would have never been approved. So, be that as it may, we're trying to work with them the best we can and limit the calls that are unnecessary, while still responding to the calls that are necessary and serious, and that's where the challenge comes in trying to balance that, keeping costs down. So, ongoing issue.
All right, thank you for the update, Matt. Eric?
Thank you, Mayor. Matt, if I could
You want to? Yep. I'll put it over to yours.
swap the screen. This issue or potential policy, question stems from a couple things related to administrative subdivisions, and one comments I think from Councilmember Mondell and Councilmember Urkel asking about look-back periods on administrative lot splits. You know, what does the city have in place, and how does it impact? We've had recent asks, if you recall, from the Lutheran Church. We had requests from the Buddhist temple asking, hey, we want these lot amendments, and so I'll just touch base on that one first. So when they come in and we look at our code, and that's what's on your screen, and I did hand it out to your at your spot. We have the original, a simple lot split can only be done once. If at a later date someone wishes to further subdivide either lot, they will need to meet all the requirements of Chapter 66, essentially a platting. And so I think some of the challenges we have is understanding that it can only be done once. Certainly it's clear and plain, but one of the challenges we have is we don't know the history of every parcel and how did they come to be. Was there a lot split in, administrative lot split in 1972 as an example? It's almost impossible for staff to really be able to ferret down that information. Obviously, we're not a title policy company, or can we request a potential applicant for that to, well, you're gonna need to go do a deep title search and prove to the city that this has never occurred. And so that can become challenging as time goes on. But on the flip side, one of the reasons for the limitations is so nobody's doing serial lot splits. So nobody's coming in and just doing one lot split after another so as to somehow avoid the city's subdivision process or to create parcels that otherwise should have been platted. In either case, the creation of a lot, whether it's by your current policy or something else, they still have to meet the requirements of what a lot is in terms of its size or its frontage, what have you. But the question just becomes is, can it only be done once really plausible for us to implement, I guess, at the staff or even you folks to interpret in a deeper sense? So your pack includes a bunch of what some other cities do. Some cities don't allow any kind of minor or administrative lot split. I believe that was Columbus. Cities like Oak Park Heights, where I used to work, we had a 5-year look back period. And I believe Blaine had a 5-year look back too, period too. And some cities just do allow, don't have any look back period at all, or don't have any limitations on it. So and those are just the 5 or 6 I looked at. I'm sure there's some other examples, but to me, what I think might be compelling for you folks to consider is to have identify a 5-year look back period. It's simple to identify. There's some local history that people will remember. Yeah, with that lot, we did that, 3.5, 4 years ago. Files are probably still reasonably fresh. There's still a neighbor to call. There's somebody, but what happened in 27 years ago, it's almost impossible to really tell. And then on a 5-year timeline, that will likely stymie anybody trying to circumvent a subdivision process or a platting process. If they're really willing to wait 5 years to just get that next lot, well, okay, they win. But I think that's the genesis of why 5 years might be compelling. Anyway, so that's kind of the long and short of it, and just on the screen and in front of your dais that you see at the dais is the original stated and then a concept. Oops, I'm sorry. And certainly this is just sample language. This is certainly nothing final, obviously. You're just beginning to touch base on this. Is the property or any resulting lot shall not have been part of a simple lot split subdivision within the last 5 years. So what's important there is the parent parcel cannot do it again, and the resulting lot or child parcel cannot do it again for 5 years. So it really puts the hold on those parties from trying to do another subdivision. If somebody really wants to do it, we suggested maybe some language that they would need to meet the requirements of Chapter 66, which again is your platting. So that's kind of the early take on it all, and be curious what you folks think about it.
Well, personally, I think 5 years is too short. I would go a minimum of 15 years. And I also think that it should be a minimum of 10 acres that gets split, because I don't think if somebody has 5 acres that they should be able to split it to 2.5 acres, because I'm presuming, knowing what East Bethel has been, it has been split multiple times probably, because this was all farmland or other land out here, farmland or, I can't think of the word, but
Just a rural
agricultural of
properties.
type
Yeah.
kind, of some type. And then back over on page 3, I think the city council needs to be involved. I believe that what this was saying is that it would come to the city council, and then this zoning administrator would have the approval to approve all of the Chapter 66 and other administrative rules and regulations that they have to comply with. So the initial split has to be approved by the council, the planning commission, the council. It has to be done the way it's been done, and the zoning administrator is to make sure everything's being complied with. So I think the wording could be updated a little bit, but to say after the council's approval, the zoning administrator, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know what the rest of the council, that's my opinion on everything. The rest of the council can put their 2 cents in and we can discuss.
May I respond just to
Yeah,
reflect on that? To that other issue in your ordinance, again, we brought this again to your attention as we're dealing with this piece of your ordinances. Let's clean this up. Whether it should be before the city council to reach a final decision under Part E, and that first sentence is shown on the screen, or should it be the zoning administrator may approve the administrative subdivision? Those 2 sentences conflict when one reads them, as you try to apply them as a staff person. So again, in your packet, I wrote about a lot of cities do have, this is just an administrative approval, a ministerial approval, where some cities just allow that if they're meeting all the requirements of those new proposed lots and the process, where some cities do, as you mentioned, Councilmember Urkel, that they do take it back to the city council in some process. But in this case, we just have a disconnect in process. One thing to keep in mind is if an applicant shows up with a proposed lot split, let's just say that it's compliant with everything, the lot sizes, the history, whatever. In most likely scenarios, the city really can't deny it. It's in function that you're required to approve if they're meeting. It's not a subjective test. It's something that, okay, they're meeting the lot size, they're meeting the historical requirements, they're paying the park dedication fee.
You'd have to have a finding of fact in order to turn it down.
In effect, yes. And so thus it becomes, really, is it become an administrative approval, but for some reasonable cause, the city is going to say no, and then you have in your ordinance a decision appeal process, which is what the intent of that was, which would then ultimately go to the city administrator and back to the city council. I don't know if there's it's just different, not one's better than the other, but if it does come to the council, your hands are kind of tied anyway. You have to approve it, just like staff would have to approve it if it remained an administrative approval. But some cities want the council to review it, and that's just fine too. So.
And the reason I am saying it needs to go to council is because council's elected, the staff are not. And for instance, I have somebody across my swamp that has 22 acres. If he came in for a lot split, everybody down that street is gonna go up in arms and say, oh, they're building, why are they building? I thought you were gonna stop development, blah, 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 blah. I'm gonna be held accountable by those residents, and that's enough residents to get me elected or not elected, you know? So the same goes with that area that, off of, 68
yeah.
there, that southern end of where Elevage is. If we had voted for that, all those residents were gonna be up in arms. I mean, we saw that.
Yeah.
So we're accountable. You guys are not really that accountable.
Well, but we are accountable to you, and the city staff would not be allowed to approve it administratively.
But we wouldn't know.
Well,
You know, that's the thing. All this
Well-
stuff would happens and we don't even know about it half the time.
well, that, the process of communication's a different issue, but if you folks want it to come before the council, which is great, it's just, we need to clean up that
It-
language.
I agree, the
And-
language needs to
yeah.
be cleaned up.
And that's the whole story here. We're not one or the other, but, yeah, so that's all I can offer.
Rest of you guys chime in.
I
You
think,
made some excellent points.
I think one of the topics he's bringing up is that of redundancy, that if council has to approve it anyways, because they've met all the requirements, then it's really just a exercise in futility coming before the council to approve something you have to approve anyways. That's why it's more maybe judicious, you might say, to approve it administratively, fast track it, because we hear, the speed of government is glacial, it moves too slow, we need, faster movement, or whatever the case is, and that's one of the concepts to consider. But again, then if administratively we say, nope, you don't meet it, then they can appeal it and come before the council and say, I still would like an exception because I want to build this or that, or split, or do whatever they want to do.
Yeah,
So.
I fully understand the point of having it administratively. But just in this scenario, bringing it in from council keeps us informed of what's going on. And if there's no reason to turn down, it should just be a footnote on a council agenda, and it should go smooth.
And sometimes we catch things that you guys don't, whether it's
That's true.
environmental, whether it's engineers, whether it's something, so a second set of eyes or 5 extra set of eyes never hurt.
We can put it in a consent agenda, we could do whatever, make it a case, whatever works, but,
Yeah.
And it can
Yeah.
always be pulled from a consent agenda for further discussion too, that's,
Consent
Exactly.
agenda would be just fine.
Yeah.
I agree with what Suzanne says too, because, I mean, we don't know what goes on a lot. And we need to, because if there's something that isn't right, the residents are calling us. And it's like, well, how stupid do we look if we don't know? You know what I mean? And we need to know. That's the part I agree with that, for sure.
So,
We-
I think it's a consensus just to clean the language, to have it come before council.
To the points of Councilmember Smith's comments, if it's a sensitive matter, we try and make sure the council's updated on those topics in a Friday update, or bring it to a work session or whatever, so that we're keeping everyone. If it's a run-of-the-mill type of approval, I don't know, outdoor party or whatever the case is, that meets the requirements without having to come to council, at that point, we don't necessarily, belabor council time to administratively approve things. That's a little bit of a, you gotta kind of get a feel for which ones are important, which ones aren't, obviously. But that's not to say that people won't react negatively to anything, and And then they elevate that to the council and it becomes
Right.
a dangerous dog scenario.
Yeah, or they say city staff denied this, and why does this
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
go before city council? Well, so we're all kind of in the same boat in some strange way, right? So,
We're all pulling in the same team though. That's
Yeah.
what we
That's what I
wanna
mean, though,
communicate
even
here.
like when you said the dog thing, which is true, I didn't know squat about it
Right.
until after that. I
Right.
mean, I feel the minute you guys know, especially something like that just send us an email and say, hey, someone's, not too happy over there with a dog attacking everybody.
Sure.
Just so we know, Cause I know you guys got a lot of stuff on your plate too, but.
Because even the simplest things that the staff may find simple is serious, to a resident. And if it's serious to a resident, they're gonna give us a call.
Absolutely.
So, does that make sense? And, yeah, we'll clean that up and just, I think we're talking with, Administrator Look and other staff, there's a few other cleanups we'll bring before you, and that's certainly one of them. And, but back to, if you would indulge the conversation a little bit further, again, we suggested maybe 5 years is interesting. Councilmember Urkel has talked about 10 or 15, whatever you think is.
What's the preference?
But again, what we're trying to remember is accomplish two things: preclude people trying to deviate from a true platting or subdivision process, but also try to preserve some history with, well, what did we do? And 5 years might be too short, but maybe 15's too long. I mean, I don't know.
I'm fine with 5 or 10.
I think 10 would be good, in my opinion, because after that, you probably lose all this stuff anyways, with this computer.
We're doing computer on everything now.
Speaking of which, how is that coming? I mean, is that gonna be something, if we go 10 years, the city's gonna be capable of having on file?
I think so. 10 years,
Yeah.
10 years is certainly a window that we can reasonably look back at.
That would be good.
Hopefully we're scanning everything now so
Yeah.
that it'll be more accessible.
I mean, 10 years ago was 2016, right? And a lot of that was digital, and you folks might remember what happened. We did 10 years ago, but what did we do in 1983? I don't remember. And also, aerophotography is much better too. And it's surprising what we all use that for on a lot of occasions. Well, was that building there? What, and the county data will even tell us more recent information about ownership changes. So we can do some easier searches with more recent data.
Suzanne,
10 years
you
sound
okay?
good?
You okay, Suzanne, with 10 years?
Not really, but you guys outvote me.
I think 10's ample. 15's a little out there. I mean, we don't even keep our city documents. How many years before we really?
Some we have to keep forever, but usually 7, something
Yeah.
like that.
I just know I went to Anoka County for something and they had some information like on that street sign that when I was on council last time, which was like 8-10 years ago.
Right.
They had information from when it was put up, so it's out there. But so you're saying after 10 years, if somebody has 20 acres and they split to 10 acres, after 10 years, they can split it down to 5 acres?
Well, only for the threshold of the time. Whatever the other remaining rules are, they still have to comply with. So if they're not meeting the lot size requirement, they're not meeting the frontage requirement, they're creating a setback violation, that just enables them to potentially apply for that parameter. They still have to meet every other test.
Do you know what the sizes, the stipulation on the sizes are? If somebody wants to split, is it 10 acres or is there a 5 acre?
It will vary by zoning district.
Right, well, yeah,
yeah.
and I guess I'm thinking more of the rural
I
residential.
think rural residential is 2.5 acre?
Yeah.
2.5 acre.
That can be split?
Right, but remember that
Minimum
is
lot size.
minimum lot size, but that minimum lot size also has to have so much frontage on a road too. So.
You gotta have, I believe, 300 feet on the road.
Yep, and then they also have to, it can't, and then there's wetland and there's drainage utility easements that might also encumber that land, so they have to meet all of those tests. And if they don't meet the 10-year test, then they have to go through the traditional plating process. It just makes one split slightly easier, I think. But they still have to
Okay.
meet all those tests.
Well, good?
Okay. Thank you all.
Yep.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, item 6.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and Council, wanted to just bring this item forward, see what you guys want to do. The city currently has about 30-some boxes that need shredding right now, and typically what happens is we call in a shredder truck. They pull in, we bring the boxes out, and they shred them on site. There's a cost to do that, and sometimes they bill for hours, sometimes they bill for the volume, okay? So either way, they can bill on that. What we're proposing here is to essentially do a city-sponsored shredding event on Booster Day that will allow people to bring in their important documents and shred. And by involving the public, we can potentially use SCORE funds through the county to pay for the shredding of everything. We do not have an estimate yet on what that would be because we don't know if it's, depending on the demand, how many people will be here, how many hours versus how much volume. But at any rate, it would give folks an opportunity to get rid of some of those files that they may have that they don't need or want to destroy, and it's a safe way of doing that. Our 30 boxes are ballots of some sort of prior elections that weren't filled out, and the state requires us to destroy those. So, but at any rate, wanted to see if you guys were agreeable to that. We would have, we could announce it to the public, we put it on the website, we could advertise that, hey, on this day you can come here and shred your papers, and that would be a benefit the city can provide you with the SCORE dollars. And what we have to do with SCORE dollars, by the way, is we have to meet minimum tonnage requirements for the county to receive those dollars, so this would go towards that tonnage as well. If the people took their shredding somewhere else or did it at home or whatever the case, burn barrel or whatever the case is, it would not go towards the tonnage requirements. So there's some benefits to doing this, there's some cost to do it as well. So
Would there be an outfit available on a Saturday?
an outfit by Saturday?
No. And would an outfit be able to perform the service on a Saturday, since it's not a traditional workday?
We would require that as conditional for them coming through, yeah.
Okay.
They're
Yep.
planning on doing it on Booster Day? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
I
think
have
that's
like
a-
10 boxes, so I'm excited.
I think it's a great idea, I think.
And is it gonna be here
People
all
collect-
day on
People
Booster
collect
Day?
stuff because you don't know, you don't want to throw it in the garbage, and people could essentially get numbers or whatever the case is, account numbers, stuff like that, so it's a useful thing, yeah. What
Is
was
it
the
go-
question? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Is it gonna be all day on Booster Days, like morning to afternoon, or just in the morning, or do you know?
We're gonna get some estimates from them on what the costs would be, and depending on what that estimate is, would kind of help us shape the window maybe till noon or something like that, 8 to noon or something like that. We would get ours done, and they could essentially bring theirs and get theirs done at the same time, so.
Well, the fact that the city can have it done, the residents can benefit by bringing theirs in, and we can use it
And the
towards
county
our
pays for
tonnage.
it.
Sounds like a win.
Win-win deal.
Definitely.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
All right, we'll schedule that, we'll get it rolling, and if the estimates are out of this world, then maybe we'll rethink it, but I don't think it's gonna be that costly, so. All right, that's all we had.
Sounds good.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.